Hey, English learners, this is just one part of a complete accent reduction framework mini course. So if you'd like the whole mini course, watch until the end and I'll share with you how to get that. So here are some things to consider and some tips that will help you improve your pronunciation and reduce your foreign accent. Number one, be intentional about listening to what you are working on and mimicking and repeating back once in a while. What I mean is that if you are working on, I don't know, the TH sound, let's use that example again. When you are listening to the radio, when you are watching TV, in English, of course, with the general American accent, you can try to listen for the TH sound and notice how it sounds with different words and whatnot. This will help you, like I said, to develop your ear, to help you identify the sound, because maybe you can't really hear that sound yet. Because, for example, the voice's TH is sometimes mispronounced as a T sound, an S sound, or an F sound. So for a learner that accidentally pronounces the voiceless TH as an S sound, the S and the Th might sound the same. So start to pay attention to that. Watch the lips of native English speakers as they are speaking, listen for it, and once in a while, try to repeat it back. I know for myself, when I listen to, for example, French or Spanish or Ukrainian, once in a while I will parrot and mimic different words that I hear. I can link that video down below just in case you want to see what I do when I am trying to improve my pronunciation and mimic different words and sounds while I'm listening to podcasts. Number two, this is not a tip, but it is something to consider. It's important to consider how long you have been mispronouncing what you mispronounce. What I mean is that if you mispronounce something, but you're still at the beginner or early intermediate stage, maybe mispronouncing certain words or certain sounds isn't quite a habit yet. Whereas if you have a more advanced level in English, if you mispronounce things, chances are it is a long and deep habit. So the longer that you've been mispronouncing certain sounds and words, the longer and harder you may have to work to undo those bad mispronunciation habits. And the more intentional you may need to be. So it's important to know that it is different for everyone. It may be harder for some people. It may be easier for others. And this may be just because it's been a long and developed habit that you've created. You didn't mean to, but it does happen when we learn a new language and we don't always get that input and proper feedback. Like I mentioned, if you've had teachers that mispronounce things or have a thick accent, or you don't really get feedback from actual English speakers or those who have a native-like accent. Three is another thing to consider, and that is what kind of learning are you doing? In one of my past YouTube videos, I talked about passive learning, active learning, and proactive learning. So if you are doing different activities that involve passive learning, you're going to learn less and not as effectively as if you are doing activities that include more proactive learning strategies. So I'll include a clip from one of my past YouTube videos where I explain the difference between passive, active, and proactive learning and what it looks like for speaking and listening. Luca took listening activities, speaking activities, and writing activities and classified the approach and activities into these three categories. So for example, if you're listening to music or podcasts while doing dishes, kind of listening, sometimes not, that would be more passive. Where if it's active listening, you're actively listening to the words, trying to understand them, and just really being intentional about listening to the words and the sentences and the phrases and whatnot in order to learn more and to capture the language. Where the proactive approach would be listening to the music, but following it with a written transcript so you're able to see the words, listen to how it's being pronounced. You probably have a notebook beside you and you're taking notes of the different sentences or phrases that you're hearing and using this for future future study, or just being able to try to incorporate these phrases and words later into different conversation that you're going to be having, or into different future conversations. Or maybe you're even mimicking what you're hearing. Maybe when you hear different phrases or sentences on the radio or on a podcast, you are repeating it back, trying to mimic the speaker in their ways of speaking, trying to imitate their exact pronunciation and speech patterns. Or maybe as you're listening, whether it be a book, podcast, or song, you're trying to transcribe the song. So write it down. So this really works on your listening, understanding, and then writing. So you might want to listen to something really slow while you're doing it, or just write down what you can understand and what you can really catch and hear. So as you can see, the proactive approach takes a lot more energy and time, but it is a lot more effective. Then Luca talks about speaking. In passive learning or passive studying, you are basically just comfortable in the way that you are communicating. You're using words and phrases that you already know. You aren't really looking for feedback. You're not asking for feedback from other people, and you're not really analyzing what other people are saying. You're kind of just doing the minimum, and you are okay with where you're at and what you're doing. You're just really okay with the way you speak. Whereas active learning and studying in regards to speaking would really be to communicate and speak in a way that you are analyzing what you want to say so that you can continue to improve your foreign language. You are really pushing the limits of what you know, because in the passive approach, you're basically saying what you already know is correct or what you're comfortable with. Where you are in the active practice of the language, you are unsure if what you're saying is correct, but you're saying it because you want to get feedback from people, whether it be other people that are going to correct your foreign language, so going to correct your English, or you're with a tutor and you're like, I don't really know if this is said the correct way, but I'm going to say it because I want to know, is it right or is it wrong? So you're really like playing, testing the limits, trying to refine your foreign language. And you're trying to identify the holes in your knowledge, like what are the specific phrases, expressions, or ways of speaking that you are not comfortable with, or that you don't really know what's correct. You're trying to actively make mistakes to learn. Are you trying to actively analyze and get feedback in order to really get better? And then proactive, some of the examples that Luca gives, because all of these examples are from him, he talks about getting into Toastmasters or public speaking, really pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, really out of your comfort zone. Possibly creating a presentation or a text to present to your tutor or your language coach so that they can identify gaps in your knowledge and they can give you feedback on the different mistakes that you've made. So as you can see, proactive's a lot more intense. After watching this, it may be tempting to just do activities that involve proactive learning, but it's not always a sustainable strategy. And that is the end of this video. I hope this has helped you find out ways to improve your pronunciation faster and more effectively. So congratulations, it looks like you made it to the end of this video. So if you would like to see the full Accent Reduction 101 Framework mini course, take a look in the description down below and click Accent Reduction mini course to join my newsletter.